Hey folks, how you doing? It is Monday, January 13th, 2025. And well, if you're on the list, you got an email today telling you about us having a scheduled live to do on Thursday. So that'll be Thursday at 10 o'clock a.m. Central Time. We'll be going live. This week's segment is based on leadership and communication. So I just wanted to kind of reiterate that to people, especially folks that haven't signed up on the list yet. If you want to be on the list to get notifications of our lives and when those lives will be and what those core topics will be, you just want to go to manananomas.com, manananomas.com, and go ahead and sign up at the bottom of the home page, what we call the newsletter, right? And then we send out stuff periodically that just tells people, when we're going to go live, what the topic will be, and and a link that you can go to register for that, so that you get a reminder, stuff like that. So now today, my unscheduled live, I couldn't help but get this out of my head. See, Friday, you couldn't do anything on Friday on the internet without just being smothered with comments from all sides of the tragedy in California, the wildfires, and when the Joe Rogan show put out the episode with Mel Gibson, and they said that during the show, Mel had lost his home, that just seemed to amplify, people's interest in what was going on with the fires in California. And there's a lot going on. And I'm not going to go through the list, right? Like if you have managed to stay out of this, more power to you. It is everywhere in my feed, and I'm trying my best to say, okay, I've got to pull back from this, and I've got to just get my job done. I'm trying to track some posts. I'm trying to go for engagement online. I'm working on some social strategies for Mañana No Más. And when I am working on those and these other things pop up, well, obviously that can become a little bit of a distraction or an obstacle. And so, pardon me. So, what I wanted to kind of share with you, and this is going to go a little bit ways back. Okay. So think back to the Syrian refugee crisis. Do you guys remember that? The Syrian refugee crisis? I was working for Ducati North America at the time. So it was pre-pandemic. So I'm going back a little bit. I'm going in the Wayback Machine. All right. The Syrian refugee crisis. And in America, there was news all the time. The border in Germany is being pressured to take in all these refugees. Refugees have, that's when they were saying that babies were washing up on the shore of Italy. There was all kinds of stuff in our media, in our propaganda here, that had us believing that, all of Europe in its entirety had been overrun from Syrian refugees. Now, this was important to me because I had a work trip that was planned, and I had to be in Italy for stuff that I was doing for Ducati. And prior to the trip, there were notifications that had been sent out. They had said that Americans shouldn't travel to Europe. Americans certainly shouldn't travel to Italy. The streets are overrun with refugees. They were talking about millions of refugees had overcome the Germany border. That was the big one, right? The German border, because the Germans had taken in so many, and there were so many millions more. And I kept looking at the map and thinking, well, how big is Syria? How big are these other countries? How can that small place overrun all of these other countries? I don't understand. And I was like, some of it just doesn't. It baffles me, right? I was like, this doesn't make sense. But they were saying you shouldn't go to Europe. You shouldn't go to Italy. You shouldn't this, shouldn't that. Well, I had this work trip coming up, and I had to go. And I'm not going to lie, I was a little anxious about it. I was a little anxious. And something weird happened. The plane landed in France for a layover, and it was completely normal. It's completely normal. By that time, I had been to Italy 12 or 13 times for work, and the travel was absolutely Normal. There was nothing. There were no protests in the causeways and the sky bridges. There was nothing. There was nothing crazy happening. So I got through France. I got to Bologna, Italy, and I know a little of Italian, so I was able to hail my own ride and get to the hotel and check in at the hotel, and I was able to actually have a conversation with the concierge counter at the hotel, and I said, how are things? Is anything I need to be concerned about? I'm from America, and she was like, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, on the news it said Bologna was overrun with Syrian refugees and they are taking over the city and barricading the streets." She said, "What? That Why would you think that?" It's because it's what's said on the news. Our national news is saying that Europe is overrun. There's all these Syrian refugees. And if you remember, I mean, try and put your mind back in time where that was, right? Bodies washing up on the beach, babies, dead babies that showing us pictures of all this stuff, beheadings and all this crazy stuff was going on. And we were led to believe as a people group that it was just mayhem and chaos everywhere. And thank goodness we had, the stability of America to reside in. And when I went to Italy, I just remember all at once being like, you can't believe a dang thing the news says. You can't believe a dang thing the news says. And so, it was these trips to Italy that spurred a lot of the opinions and the things that I say today. Like when I say, the food in America sucks, the food in America is not healthy, they're poisoning us. I'm saying that because I've been to other countries. I've eaten whatever I wanted to eat. I've drank whatever I wanted to drink. And I jump on a scale a week later and I've lost weight. I say that because I have friends that have gluten allergies in the States, but could go to Italy and eat whatever they want and not get sick. So that's why I say those things. It's anecdotal. It's experience. I've lived it firsthand. And so when people say, "Why do you have these crazy opinions? You're such a nonconformist." It's not like I'm trying to be contrarian. It's I have been there. I have seen with my own eyes. And that's something that our media and our politics tries to do. It tries to tell us like, "Hey, hey, 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 forget what you're seeing with your own two eyes. You must be crazy. It's completely different than what you thought." And we have to open our eyes and go, this is what I see. This is what I experience. This is what I hear. This is what I know to be true from my own experience. And so, what I know to be true from my own experience is there was no overrunning of Bologna with Syrian refugees during the Syrian refugee crisis. And I traveled the city and I went out with friends and we went to restaurants, and obviously the stuff for work was planned out well and executed well and all that stuff. And that's when we were releasing the 1299 in the States and the X Diavel and all these things were going on. Corporately it was a really great time for Ducati, but globally there was this angst that they were trying to promote for one reason or another. Now, I'm not here to perform political science. What I'm here to say is calmer heads prevail. I admitted to you on this call that I was very anxious about my trip to Europe. I had believed what the news was saying, and I thought, I'll just be careful. I'll try to operate in the shadows. I'll stay at the hotel as much as possible, and I'll just go from the hotel to the office. And I had that plan. And then when I got to Bologna and saw that absolutely nothing on the news was true, and that Bologna was completely normal, and restaurants were open, and people were celebrating life as they always do in Italy, because Italy's an amazing place, I was like, oh, wow. And I was a little bit shattered. Shattered, not depressed. I was shattered like our belief systems aren't correct. How's that? Hopefully that's a good description. So I was thinking about my angst and my anger and my frustration Friday, seeing all this stuff in Twitter and the fires in California and all this stuff. So I did something that I knew I probably should have done. I reached out to friends that I know that live in Southern California. Hey, how's it going in Anaheim? Hey, how's it going in Huntington Beach? Hey, what's it like over in Chino Hills right now? How are you doing? How are you holding up? I was concerned about you. I saw your area on the news. Uh, Everything's fine. Most of the smoke's blowing out to the ocean. Oh yeah, it hasn't really affected us. A lot of stuff is really happening up north, though, they would say. Um, and I don't want to take the drama out of it. Like, I don't want to say nothing's happening. Something's happening. Something is obviously happening. But the emphasis that we see on the outside looking in, by and large, probably is not worth as much of our attention as we give it. These distractions keep us unfocused from that which we could forge forward with. And I think that that's an important thing to bring up. If we allow ourselves to get absorbed into all of these distractions, let's just be real. I used to live in Southern California. I have a lot of friends that live in Southern California. Do I have concerns about fires in Southern California? Yes. Yes. I'm a compassionate, loving person. Of course, I have concerns about people, especially friends of mine that live in Southern California that may be impacted by this horrible thing. But there's another side to this, and that is I live in Kansas now. So as I live in Kansas, I have a responsibility to perform my job and be the breadwinner for my family and to add value to as many people as I possibly can, in business, in relationships, in coaching, consulting. I owe that to them, right? So if I allow myself to become overly distracted with the distractions of our times, I take away from my ability to add value to others and provide leadership and a voice in other areas. And I think that that is where a lot of us are getting our heartstrings pulled and tugged and abused, to be honest with you. I think about how much information I stored in my head about the COVID vaccines and COVID policies and things that didn't align or make sense. It's kind of like if you were on the internet Friday and you were watching the stuff in California, you would have been like, oh, so 60 trucks came from another state to help fight the fires. But before they could go fight the fires, they had to drive to Sacramento for emissions testing first. And then they have to go to Sacramento on the way out of the state for emissions testing again. What does emissions testing have to do with fighting the fire? Nothing. So, 90% of us on the outside world are going to go, there's a misalignment. Something doesn't make sense. Right? You see a thing where supposedly some illegal alien got arrested starting fires with a blowtorch or whatever the description is, and then was released due to, lack of motive. You catch a guy starting fires in a fire region where fires are devouring cities. You catch the guy in the act, and then you let him go and say, well, we didn't have probable cause. Misalignment. Things don't make sense. And all of these distractions, all of these things that are happening one after the other, these are things that don't make sense. There's no alignment. So when there's no alignment in something, I want to encourage you that, hey, maybe a little bit of knowledge is okay. Maybe a little bit of knowledge is a good thing, but you don't need to become the expert on everything. You need to be the expert on whatever your specialty is and how you add value to others. So I'm not adding value to others if I'm talking about a gunman on a roof in Pennsylvania up there for 32 minutes. And, they knew he was there, but didn't take him out. And then he got shots off. He got 8 shots off before they fired on him. Like, we hear these sound bites and we think to ourselves, well, that doesn't have any alignment. That breaks common sense. There's got to be something that somebody is trying to test or prove or do with us as a people group. And the only encouragement that I can offer is to pull ourselves out of that situation. Focus on what you do, how you offer value to other people, and just go and do it. Love on others, add value to others. For instance, I run the WordPress meetup group in Hutchinson, Kansas. I am going to be running the WordPress meetup in Hutchinson, Kansas tomorrow night. That's it. That's where my skill set is. That's where my value proposition is. And that's how I can love on others in my community and add value to them. So I'm going to go do that, right? working on customers' web projects, consulting with people on some business ideas. I've got a couple of public talks coming up. I've got 2 talks coming up in February. So I've got to make sure those presentations are on point, make sure I'm well prepared to give those talks. Knowing what's happening at every turn in California is not going to help me add the most amount of value to the people that I'm already committed to. And so I think it's really important that we remember that calmer heads prevail. Whatever it is that's trying to distract us, chances are it is an exploded version of the truth. A lot of it is hyperbole and propaganda. And for the most part, check on your people, do what you can within reason, but really focus on your own purpose. I was talking about purpose last week, and surprise, surprise, in the live on Thursday, we'll be talking about purpose. And the more we can isolate ourselves for our purpose, the more value we can add to others. And I hope that that resonates with people as a core message moving forward. Folks, if I don't see you before then, I'll see you Thursday at the live. We'll be on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, YouTube. It'll be Thursday, 10 o'clock a.m., going live again. This week, we'll be talking about leadership and communication. Thanks for hanging out. I'm going to double check comments here on my way out. Let me get over here. And I don't see any comments here yet. So we're just going to go ahead and start to wrap this up. We'll go here and say, thanks for watching. See you soon.